It is. At the time that I'm recording this, I have no idea when you're hearing it, but I am recording this at approximately 11:20 p.m. on the night of January 29th, 2019. Kingdom Hearts 3 has officially released. It's actually been released in North America officially for about 24 hours by this point. Several very lucky friends of mine who thought to just get their copy from GameStop the night of release have probably already played through, I don't know how good of a chunk of it, but they've been playing through it probably the last full 24 hours by this point. I'm about to. I am eagerly awaiting the return of my girlfriend to start playing it. I wanted to, real quick, before officially playing through it, I've got the whole thing installed, and it's good to go when she gets back, but before actually playing it, I wanted to start the dateline of this. I'm going to be doing something a little different for my Kirblog review of this game. I am going to be doing a check-in sort of chronicle of my experience with this game. Maybe this will be multiple parts. Maybe this will be one really long, gigantic thing. I don't know. But I'm going to record myself after every play session that I have of this game. With something significant. Sometimes I might, skip over, depending, who knows. But I'm going to sort of keep sort of a travel log of my entire playthrough of this game. I haven't really done something like this before, but I wanted to try something a little different than usual. So you'll be hearing this after we've beaten the game. So it's going to be kind of an interesting little time capsule. But I am recording this, what you're hearing right now at this moment, on the night of the 29th. And I will update with a dateline before each little update and everything. And maybe I'll put in like a sound effect or something in between just to make sure that people know, like, okay, we've changed to a different point in time. But yeah, so I'm about to play Kingdom Hearts 3 after waiting for a very, very, very long time. Even since Dream Drop Distance came out, I've been waiting a very long time for this game. And my hopes are high. My dreams are running rampant. And yeah. So, here we go. Dateline, January 30th, 2019. I'm not going to mention the year. I'm not going to be playing this all year, for Christ's sake. So we've played about 4 hours worth, and I just, by this point, if you don't realize that I'm going to be going into spoilers beware. By this point, I've gotten up to Twilight Town, so I'm that far at the moment. But I'll go through kind of everything we've done in order so far. So after the three very cool but very long intros before we actually got to play the game, I remember, I think I had heard, because some of the copies were stolen or leaked or whatever the hell happened. Somebody, I guess, revealed that there was going to be another dive into the heart intro style thing for sort of practicing and all that and getting your your stats in order. I did like the kind of change in approach as far as, not having like the sword, the shield, and the wand again, like we usually do. Having the sort of, choosing different things based off of the memories that you have. It's quite interesting because it really set the tone for the whole game where, my God, it's not that it expects you to know absolutely everything, but it is definitely playing to, you get a lot of, payoffs and this is just this whole story has so much to do with you knowing everything else that led up to this point so far. Right down to the intro where, memories of different things that happened in the previous games are kind of like the markers for, do you prefer playing the game this way? Do you prefer being more of an attacker or more of a magic user, more of a defender, etc.? Which I think is interesting. I liked that, and then going into it's funny. I predicted right away that Darkseid was going to show up because he's always the kind of tutorial intro sort of character in a lot of the previous games, which was cool. So that was nice. I liked that, and didn't mind at all the little refresher that we had of as they jokingly had the Kingdom Hearts 2.9 thing. I was just slapping my knee, laughing in hilarity at that. Controls are pretty damn good. Definitely a lot, as I would expect, a lot smoother than 1 or 2. Much closer to the way that things felt in Fragmentary Passage, which is about what I expected. Yeah, the combo system feels, just like it did before. Definitely, we've been doing a lot of the press X to win stuff. I will admit, I'm still not. I don't know what the hell it is, but I'm still not loving the usage of the magic shortcuts and everything. It's something about it that doesn't feel super intuitive to me. But I'm trying to get myself used to it. But I do love the fact that all of these different power ups and special things that you get, a la the Birth by Sleep sort of power up modes and the different techniques you get. I love that. That is super intuitive and very easy to pick up, and you just, as I was kind of expecting, you just feel so powerful in this game all the time because you're doing 8,000 different cool special moves. Now, that said, while I don't mind the Metroid style, resetting of everything where, okay, well, time to play this new game and we, just in case this is your first one or, also to not make you completely OP or whatever as you start, we're going to reset all your powers. And so, and then that's the in story reason and of, Sora getting screwed up by Xehanort almost making him into his vessel or whatever. And, I don't mind that. I don't mind the usage of that as part of, why you have to get everything back or whatever. And it makes for a good, sort of start to why do you go to Olympus? And why do you go to talk to Hercules about getting your powers back and training and everything? However, as, Amy pointed out, it's kind of mildly hypocritical that, they make a big deal, a big like story point out of that, which is all well and good, except you have like a ton of powers at your disposal. Like you just get the like Disneyland ride shit already, and like you have all the different like, Birth by Sleep forms, and then after you beat Olympus, you get your first Keyblade transformation and everything. So it's like, oh, I guess I'm stronger than I thought. I mean, I know I don't have the power of waking and all that Yen Sid is insisting on, but I can still kick a massive amount of ass. So, I mean, shrug. That said, the AI on Donald and Goofy and so far Hercules is the only party member that we've had, an additional one so far, way more helpful. I can already tell that, they're a lot more useful, both in like the team attacks that you can do and just generally they're a lot more proactive with fighting enemies and things. And I'm like, okay, I like this. This is nice. I do also like that there are not a ton, but some NPCs, some other characters that exist beyond the ones that were, modeled for important purposes. I will say this is a minor pet peeve, but I'm a little annoyed that after multiple games where Phil from Hercules, he's one of those characters that only has a texture mouth. He doesn't have a fully animated mouth, and yet he doesn't say a goddamn word. In fact, I could tell that also with that little cutscene of Ienzo talking to you on the phone, with Lexius Elias, not saying a word. I have a feeling that there are going to be a fair number of characters that don't actually say anything, but they're there, probably to avoid spending a massive, like, ridiculous amount of money on the voice acting for this game, which is, fair enough. I mean, the cast of any Kingdom Hearts game tends to be pretty gigantic, so I guess I get that, and it's Disney money too, but, it's just a little annoying to be like, oh, there he is, he's not going to say anything, even though he's Phil, and he's, usually a pretty talkative kind of guy, but, whatever. But I was happy to hear Herc and Meg and Hades in there. Well, not so much Hades for, other reasons, but you know what I mean. And Corey Burton is Zeus in there as well. Olympus as a level, super cool so far. All of the platforming is massively improved. All the different little scattered game mechanics with like my God, there's a lot of I almost wanted to joke about how, man, so far Kingdom Hearts 3 is the best Sonic game I've played in a long time, between the rail grinding and the like falling from, this kind of like some of the Lost World stuff where like you're falling down and kind of gliding in the way that you're looking or whatever, some of that sort of stuff. The different scattered gameplay mechanics, the kind of, anime jumping your way around different obstacles and things to navigate through and stuff. So far, this is certainly the flow motion is. I haven't played around with the flow motion as much yet. It seems a little bit easier to manage compared to Dream Drop Distance. Not that it was bad in Dream Drop Distance, but comparatively, it seems like it's improved a little bit. Finally playing through the Rock Titan sort of level boss and everything. After seeing demo footage of it for like years by this point, was really cool to finally get to do it myself. And then the big like multi-Titan fight was ridiculous. Like, the first part with fighting the Ice and the Fire Titan, which so I fought the Rock Titan, Amy fought the Ice and the Fire Titan, and then she tried against the Tornado Titan, and then I ended up trying a little bit afterwards. She had to get ready for work. And just to start with, it's like, this is, and I can tell that like this is probably a little bit of a comparatively a shorter level, because it's like the tutorial intro sort of thing. But even then, like they make it epic as fuck with like how many different things you can do, and the look of the whole stage, like ascending the ascending up the mountain. I'm hoping that there is actually a coliseum to go to and do some battles against and everything as well. I don't know if that's in there anywhere, but we went through everything with that. We'll have to go back at some point now that we have the the Disney smartphone to go take selfies with the Mickey, the hidden Mickey symbols everywhere, and do that, because we do want to do. I read up that you have to have gotten pictures of every single one of those in order to get the secret ending. So I'm going to try to make sure we can do that as we're playing through. But yeah, we just got up to Twilight Town, met up with Pence and Hayner and Olette with their 3 unnecessary recast new voices. I don't know what the hell they were thinking with that. Sorry, no offense to the new actors. I just don't understand the decision behind that. I know their Japanese voices are different too. It's just weird, whatever. Anyway, so we just met up with them, and we did the whole like picture comparison. We're going to go off and explore Twilight Town now. We just got there and did the little nobody fight, tested out a bunch of powers, and tried out the new Keyblade transformation and everything. Feels really good so far. I'm enjoying this, and I'm of course also the little Riku segment where we go to the Dark World. I know what's coming. I know they're going to go back there. I know what's going to happen with Aqua. I've seen that in every trailer so far. But, it's still very cool. I didn't get to play as Riku. Amy did, but she said that he feels really cool to play as, and he's got lots of cool techniques and everything. And, so I'm happy that they have those little in-between segments with him. I'm curious to see what else that they might have in the future. But so far, this has been really good, and I will not get to play again until, I think, later tomorrow. Just because of work schedule stuff, but that's it for today. So on to the next day. Here we go. Dateline January 31st. We have completed what I can only presume is our first visit to Twilight Town. Really liking the usage of this as just kind of a little like a smaller world. It seems like, and not a fully realized Disney length one, or at least I don't know. We're about to go to Toy Story next, so we'll be seeing if the size comparison as far as the amount of stuff to do will be bigger in comparison to Olympus and Twilight Town. But this was a fun little romp. Good usage of this area, good usage of the characters within it. It was good seeing Pence, Hayner, and Olette again. Was kind of surprised, but realizing it makes sense. The kind of revisiting the usage of the usage of the data at Twilight Town as kind of a plot point with the possibility of bringing Roxas back, which makes sense. This is just me predicting stuff ahead of time, because I figured they're going to find ways to bring back, all of the characters that have been lost, including Roxas, and for him to be able to have a body. I imagine some kind of, data thing, like, for him, his heart to eventually inhabit would make sense. So I'm predicting that maybe that might be kind of what gets him his own sort of corporeal form again, being separated from Sora. The stuff with Remy, who I love that he is just referred to as the little chef the whole time, was just so cute. I have not tried the cooking mini games for myself just yet. Only Amy has, but the usage of also Scrooge and the bistro and everything, all that like makes really good sense. Like kind of merging that character in here. This is the first place we've been to where it's pretty massively populated with NPCs that are like bustling and talking. Like that is one thing massively unique to this game that is kind of blowing my mind a little bit, just having like people around. I was a little sad at first at how empty Olympus kind of was in retrospect, but especially compared to Twilight Town. But so far, this is pretty cool. I actually kind of wonder if it's like, because I wouldn't be able to compare it 1-to-1, but I kind of wonder if it is a full like just HD recreation of what was the original Twilight Town model. from back then. I'm not entirely sure. I'm also hoping right now it's the exit of the world, but I am very much hoping that we'll be able to go to the secret place where Roxas and the gang used to hang out with and everything. Ansem and Xemnas showing up. I remember seeing this cutscene in some of the trailers and everything. Glad that there haven't been any major showdowns with these characters just yet. They're sort of just around, although I'm assuming that we'll probably be fighting against, like young Xehanort in Toy Story world and maybe Marluxia in the Tangled world. We'll see. I'm not entirely sure yet. But Pence being the smart guy who has to fix everything, I know we'll be back with him again. We haven't tried the little Game & Watch LCD things yet, or slash, I don't know, Tiger Electronics style Mickey Mouse games just yet, but I'm sure I'll probably mess around with those at some point. The first cutscene with Kairi and Axel was very adorable. I'm actually curious if this might technically be like a Sword in the Stone world, or if it's just something else entirely. I am curious to see like what this place that they're training in is. Kairi, I can tell that they're already trying to kind of flesh her out a little bit more with some of this stuff, and her like writing kind of expanding upon the letter stuff from in 2 and all that. Again, this is just the proof of like, even though the concept of Shion is very convoluted and kind of stupid and just, is like this like mean, almost kind of manipulative tug at your heartstrings. But I admit, like, when the don't hold back Axel thing happens and he starts losing it, I'm like, God damn it, it's getting to me. I hate that I'm being affected by this. But yeah, so very curious to see where their little in-between stuff goes. It's funny because also between the comment I made a day or two ago about Phil and now coupled with Dylan and Elias here, I'm like, time to add to the list of characters that are making appearances and probably aren't going to say anything because of budgetary reasons, with not having to pay 8,000 fucking voice actors with 2 lines of dialogue each. We'll see what happens with that, but it is good to see them at the very least. I'll give them that much, I guess. But yeah, so waiting for Amy to get home. We're gonna start playing through Toy Story next. And very excited about that. I forgot if I said anything about the gummy ship, but the usage of that is like this big open world, like space kind of thing, like this kind of like an all range mode giant Star Fox level with these like random battles of shooting at things and everything. I like that. Only Amy's done it so far, and she wasn't big into it. I have a feeling I'm gonna like it a lot because I love like space shooters and Star Fox kind of stuff. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, so that's it for now, and I'll be back. Wish me luck as we enter the toy box. Dateline February 1st. We have now successfully beaten both the Toy Story and Tangled levels. Spent about, I would say, like 3 hours or so each on both these worlds. Enjoyed the shit out of them so far. Toy Story I was looking forward to particularly because as far as my history with Toy Story and video games go, I played the shit out of the Toy Story Sega Genesis / Super Nintendo game. I played the Genesis one predominantly, but so I had that was like one of my go-to Sega Genesis games in the late 90s. And so being able to explore a full 3D version of Andy's room after spending so much time in it and around that whole area as a child. And I also had the Toy Story Activity Center PC games as well. So on that same note, I was used to hearing Jim Hanks predominantly or not predominantly, but like, I was used to enough hearing him as Woody. And I was happy to hear Ratzenberger and Wallace Shawn and all them back for their characters and everything. And shout out to Piat Michael, who's a fantastic Arlie Ermey voice match on Sarge, and the little Roger Craig Smith cameo in there. Gigas, which I know was very heavily advertised as a feature for this stage. A lot of fun. It was just kind of making this whole thing of just like punching everything to win, just all the time. The controls of that and being able to navigate around just how huge the Galaxy Toys area was. I love how gigantic this world feels, and yet it's perfect because it's big, but not like so excruciatingly big that I can't like tell where I'm supposed to go or whatever. Like there's plenty of room to explore. It's just the right size. It's like it's not too big and confusing like some of the Kingdom Hearts 2 levels were, but it's a little bit. It's easier to navigate like the Birth by Sleep stages, but a little bit bigger than those. So there's more to do all around them and everything. Loved all the bosses in this stage in particular. The creepy floating Lolita doll and the big UFO thing at the end, all that stuff. Yeah, I do like that. So far, what we're seeing is like the very inventive, like big heartless type creatures that we've had in a lot of the previous games, which I always think are fantastic to see. And I remember at one point we were thinking that for a second maybe Buzz was going to get turned into a heartless or something, but I remember seeing footage of the UFO boss at some point in some of the trailers and things. Yeah, that was great. I'm loving that there is actual character development included in the Disney worlds now. I've been happy that they've been holding on to, the interactions that he had with Hercules and the Olympus stage about getting his power back, and what the characters do and say against the organization members that show up seems to also have an impact. We loved the scene of when they confront young Xehanort with after he's captured Buzz. And Woody is doing like the slow, like badass walk of like, you've never been loved before. You're more hollow than any toys. Like, this is the coolest, most surreal, weird, but awesome shit I've ever seen. It's so cool how they're like, I don't know. I just love that. Like, it feels like the Disney characters matter so much more now. What the hell is the game called? The something Rex like Final Fantasy knockoff by the Final Fantasy people game was also kind of a hilarious little interpretation and kind of like an interesting usage of this is where you come from in this world, kind of as if like they have an equivalent or something, kind of something a little different from the usual rules that you would expect in these worlds in the past, but I liked the approach that they took on that, and actually getting to go inside the video game and do that and everything was really cool. I figured you'd be able to go back and do that, and I'm certainly understanding the whole idea behind what is it like that you're able to still go back and explore if you want to get like the Mickey emblems and everything, which we've been trying to keep an eye out for, going around and doing all that stuff, and so it gives you. There has to be a logical reason as to why, like, oh, well, why are the humans not back yet? Why were the two different versions of the Toy Story world not fused back together, or whatever weird, like, dream world excuse there was? I am presuming that we are probably going to go back to each of the worlds again and maybe even fight against each of the organization members. It might be another Kingdom Hearts 2 style thing. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, I mean, because we haven't fought young Xehanort, we haven't fought Marluxia yet, hearing a lot of Kingdom Hearts 2 remixes, which at the very least, I'm glad that like they seem to be like actual new arrangements and not just like the ones that they did with what's it called and like the HD ports where they like updated all the instruments and everything and redid some of them. It sounds like these are actual like new arranged remixes and everything. The original tracks are great. I do the Toy Story battle music is I was tweeting about it the day before that I'm recording this section of it. Again, I don't know when you're hearing this full final cut together thing, but the Toy Story battle music is one of my new favorite tracks of all time in the entire Kingdom Hearts series, like absolutely. I have enjoyed the fact that the Toy Story level was not taking place within the movie plot, again, because I was sick of that. However, I will say we finished the Tangled level and spent another 3 hours on that as well. Tangled is one of my personal favorites Disney movies in recent years, and it was good hearing almost everybody, minus Mandy Moore, of course, on Tangled, on Rapunzel. The voice match is pretty good on her. I was talking to Martin about this a little while ago. He hasn't picked up the game at the time that I'm recording this yet. But this level, at least so far, has changed my mind on the whole I'm sick of, the Disney World levels just being, it's the movie, except Sora and the gang are there, and that's the only difference is that they're there, and sometimes that even kind of brings down the story of what the movie originally was. I've changed my mind on that because of how well executed the Tangled level was. For one thing, Ben and I talked about this on the retrospective we did, but the fact that these are the CG movies, so they just straight up look like, at least the character models do, maybe not the same like visual fidelity because it's still an in-game cutscene, but overall, like because of just how everything is strung together, like it feels much more like what the intention is, which is you are living these Disney movies, you are living these adventures, and the way that they, I'm only judging off of how they did this for the Tangled level so far, but even in just the way that they weaved Sora and company into the story, like it was really well done. It wasn't bringing anything down. They certainly skipped over a lot of moments from the movie. They couldn't, retell the entire thing in game form or whatever. But that said, even, because I was already bracing for, okay, it's time for the, remaking this movie cutscene in the Kingdom Hearts game engine moments that every Disney World level has to have in these games. But honestly, the 3 or 4 different, like, just straight up, this is a scene from Tangled cutscenes in there, they were all good. Like, certainly they're never going to live up to the original movies, but like they still feel enough like them. With the expressive character animation and everything, and the acting with getting most of the cast back and all that. So I was on board. It really got me. And it helps that I love the movie in general, so that was nice. But I didn't quite make it as much use. I keep forgetting that flow motion is a thing that you can use. It's a feature that I like. It's something that I enjoyed about Dream Drop Distance, but I keep forgetting that it's there. So I wasn't using Rapunzel's hair attacks as much. We haven't been back there just yet, so I haven't been able to see what the plot reason is for her having her hair again. But I'm thus far intrigued about whatever the deal is with Marluxia. So my theory at the moment is I think that the organization members, like the ones that we've seen before who are part of the group again, I think that they are human now, but they're using their nobody names with the X's because they're marked for being changed into Xehanorts. Because I'm noticing that from the cutscenes we've seen so far that Vexen and Marluxia both have the yellow eyes now. And Vexen even straight up just stated what his reasons are for wanting to join the organization again. So it seems like, okay, they're all kind of on board with doing this for, whatever the big plan is. And I'm like, okay, so I'm pretty intrigued about that. I'm also kind of impressed that they're making good use of the whole, like, replica subplot as, like, a device for possibly getting Roxas back and explaining some of the other stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. I'm glad that I'm able to keep track of all this shit and all these little, minor plot threads and things and elements that were used in games from forever ago. But so we finished Toy Story and Tangled. Love them both. We just started Monsters, Inc. We've literally only just started. We've seen the opening cutscene for it. We fought a couple of the Unversed. I know that Vanitas is going to show up in this one. But and I'm also kind of happy to see that this apparently is also taking place after the original movie. So it's kind of a new plot. Because I know the Toy Story level was I think it was in between 2 and 3 was the story of that. But I'm curious to see okay, I guess this is sort of our stand-in for Monsters Inc. 2, so we'll see how that goes. But so that's it for now. I'll be back to playing Monsters Inc. later tonight, and I'll check in again at some point in the next couple days. Bye-bye. Dateline, February 5th. This did not end up going exactly as I planned. We beat the game on Sunday night, so we have a lot to talk about. Basically, the last several days ended up being extremely busy, and as a result, I did not have the free time daily that I was expecting to do this kind of check-in thing. But we beat the entire game, and I'm just going to kind of go through point by point all of the other stuff as best as I can. I'm sure that now as a result of this, I'm going to skip over things and forget certain things, but I will try to hit up all the major points and things I could remember about each of the worlds and everything. Okay, so starting with the Monsters, Inc. level. This was, I believe, Amy's favorite level of the entire game. Just like with what I was saying about Tangled, she admitted she was probably a little biased because Monsters, Inc. is her favorite Pixar movie. But this was cool to see, like I was saying before, kind of the closest thing to a Monsters, Inc. 2, in a sense. Even though it used a small amount of characters and things within the stage itself, it worked in the sense that it's like after hours and they're just having another play date with Boo. Like very, clearly this is very shortly after the original movie. It's hilarious to hear what is clearly just Boo's clips from the actual movie just being recycled in the same clip of Kitty like 5 times in the different cutscenes and things. The voice matches for Sully and Mike were really good. Not so much the Randall wasn't great, but it was cool to see Randall. I was just sad that I didn't get to fight Randall. There's very few actual fights against the Disney enemies in these different stages. So I was a little bummed out about not getting to fight Randall. By this point, I figured from the fact that we hadn't fought any of the organization members that appeared in the individual levels, I figured, okay, we're fighting other bosses, and then at the end, we're probably going to fight against these characters, which ultimately we did. But yeah, I was a little bummed about that. The unversed boss, the creepy slime thing, was a really interesting boss. That one was actually kind of tough. I think she had to spend a fair amount of time on beating that one, and yeah, it was cool to see, like, I guess in a sense it was like this sort of factory level. I gotta say, ever since I saw the original movie, I'm pretty sure I distinctly remember having a thought of, like, when you see the doors, like the big machine that's like, kind of keeping track of all the doors. I always thought, oh, that would make a really, really cool video game level, like even beyond Kingdom Hearts stuff specifically. And to finally be able to do that. And once again, my God, this is a very impressive Sonic game. This Kingdom Hearts game has a lot of really good Sonic elements to it with the rail grinding and everything like that. That just felt like a Sonic level, oddly enough, and but that was cool. I knew that Vanitas was going to show up in this stage, and was a cool exchange and seeing kind of trace elements of Ventus sort of pop out of Sora in response to that. It was interesting because the Monsters Inc. level, between the portals that lead to different worlds in the doors, and the screaming energy, like, as in, like, the energy of fear and like negative emotions or whatever. The lore of the Monsters Inc. universe lent itself very well to the plot elements of Kingdom Hearts in general, and the stuff that Vanitas is talking about it worked very well. I mentioned before also in the Toy Story level that I loved the scene with Woody kind of standing up to young Xehanort and being all badass and everything. Probably one of my favorite moments of the entire game now is literally fucking Sully just picking up Vanitas, throwing him into a door, and then throwing that door into another door, and then throwing that into another door, and throwing it into another door, and then I think, like, they tossed that one into the fucking wood chipper or whatever. Like, oh, and also, by the way, I loved the consistent joke with what's it called? When Randall gets thrown back into the door from which he escaped from, and you hear the couple, oh, it's the gator again, the like hillbilly people. It's like, that's some good continuity. And then the fact that Sora, like, locks it magically, like the way that he does in the other stuff. It's that makes sense. That's a cute thing. I like that. So that was nice. Yeah, but no, that scene of Sully throwing, I was like dying laughing of him, like throwing him into a door, throwing the door into the next door, and the next, and the next, and just burning that. I'm like, he's gonna get away from that. Like, he's gonna be fine. Vanitas will show up again fucking later. But just the fact that, like, that was a thing, like, it was ridiculous. It's funny because I also noticed, and this isn't a complaint, I figured I knew exactly why, because now Haley Joel Osment is talking directly to himself as Vanitas to Sora. I can tell that his Vanitas performance is a little more like, I'm evil or whatever, just to, like, help differentiate the two voices, which I get, and I'm not discrediting him because the performances were still good, but it was interesting to see that. And then we went to the Frozen level. In my opinion, this was the worst level in the game. Now by that, I first of all, I should say, of the, like, full levels, not counting stuff like the Winnie the Pooh stage, which I'll get to that in a minute, and like Twilight Town or whatever. It was still fun. It was still enjoyable. I put my, like, meh feelings about Frozen aside in general to just sort of enjoy it. I'll go to the negative points first. The main reason I didn't like this as much compared to the other stages is because while I went to bat for the Tangled level and enjoyed it for how it played out, this one felt the most like it's the Disney movie, except Sora and the gang are there. In fact, it was almost like laughable in how like it was going because like they straight up put the entire Let It Go sequence from the movie in the game. I mean, yeah, they reanimated it, of course, but and I'm almost impressed. We were theorizing like, oh, I wonder if like Disney made them do that, or if it was just a matter of like this is the most successful Disney movie since Lion King, which is funny because I used Simba in the final battle against the cool wolf Heartless thing. Which, by the way, much like how the Lady Gothel Cape Heartless was cool, I liked that the wolf Heartless came from Hans as well. That was kind of a cool idea. But yeah, the just the whole sequence of it's the Let It Go scene, except Sora, Goofy, and Donald were there and like being amazed by all the shit that Elsa was doing or whatever. And I was like, okay, I was disappointed about Elsa not being playable with you. And I was that said, I was expecting to play with Anna and Kristoff, which I was like, whatever. And I didn't expect the surprise of Marshmallow being your party member because I knew he was in the game and I just assumed he was a boss, which he was. But then he joins you and I'm like, oh, that actually makes much more sense. That makes the most amount of sense in terms of who would be your, actual combat partner in this particular stage. So I was like, cool, all right. The ice maze dungeon thing was kind of cute. It was all right. It was giving me some fun little Zelda flashbacks. There was literally a section of that dungeon that like straight up looked like one of the rooms from the ice cavern from fucking Ocarina of Time, by the way. But so it was okay. It was fine. I still enjoy snow and ice levels in games. The final boss was really badass. But overall, it was just kind of, it was underwhelming. It was whatever. Good on them for getting the whole cast of the original movie back. Oh, the Olaf, finding the pieces of Olaf thing was probably the most annoying thing in the entire game, like just straight up. Thankfully, we got through it relatively, quickly, but it was annoying. So that was Frozen. Moving on to some of the smaller stuff. The Winnie the Pooh level. It was all right. I was appreciative that it was short, and I like Puzzle Bobble, so I enjoyed the mini game that I was forced to play. I happened to be like, oh, I like this game, so I will play this. And we did the 3 rounds and had the little cute cutscenes with the characters, and it was fine. It didn't overstay its welcome too much. I didn't mind it at all. I was like, okay, this is cute. I'm fine with that. So it was cool. And and then we went back to Twilight Town. So actually, it was funny. At first, the scene where Ansem the Heartless takes back Ansem the Wise from the Dark Realm where he was hanging out with Aqua. When I first saw that, I was actually confused as to when that had happened. I thought maybe that might have been like before the events of 3. But then it turned out that it was just like, I guess around that time. And then he immediately did that awful shit to Aqua and turned her dark or whatever the hell. And, he, bringing Ansem the Wise to the Twilight Town stuff and kind of setting up this mysterious thing about, this girl who was experimented on, which I'm finding out from kind of the little extra bit of research I've been doing. It's heavily implied that it may be Ava, of the Foretellers. But it was interesting to kind of see a little bit of the teases of that and everything. I was happy that real quick, I forgot to mention, I was just happy that all of the Disney characters get to do something cool in each of their respective levels. And again, continuing the fact that like, it seems like all of the things that happen in those levels like directly impact the development of the main characters, like to some extent, even if it's not a huge amount. But like what's happening to the Disney characters and how it, corresponds with the bigger picture, like that I hugely appreciate. So that was good. But yeah, with Twilight Town on the note I was thinking of, I'm glad that the Roxas Friend trio got to, do something cool. The "Hey loser" scene, and then they actually succeeded in rescuing Ansem the Wise. That was actually kind of cool, and then finding out that Vexen is actually a two-timing betrayer, and ends up actually submitting his replica research, which. Okay, so by the end of the game, just to skip ahead a little bit, I got to understand that the replicas plus Xehanort's ability to time travel and I guess pluck hearts from different points in time and then put them into the replicas because they have to exist only as a heart. I bought it. I was like, okay, this works enough as an excuse for why all of these characters are just suddenly back and they can be part of the story again. I'm like, okay, it's a little ridiculous and it's a little hard to follow and it took me some time to get, but okay, sure, I buy it. Like I said before, I did like the usage of the replicas as a plot device because it was something that I think did, deserve to be expanded upon a little bit more. And then finding out that Vexen and also Demix ended up being kind of betrayers to the villains. I liked that. At first, I was confused because I thought that they were still members of the 15, or sorry, of the 13 rather. There were 15 in total, with the two of them as the the benched characters in terms of who were going to be the vessels for Xehanort and everything. Yeah, I like that the dork duo got to have some comeuppance, or not comeuppance, got to have some redemption and fix things a little bit with what was going on with that. Having all the different factions and everything with all of the good guys and bad guys and how everything was sort of coming together. Kind of a bummer that Maleficent and Pete were just kind of allocated to like a couple little minor comedy scenes mixed here and there. With just again teases about this what will very clearly be expanded upon as the cell phone game continues, and whatever may come next, which we'll get to that a little bit later. But because I was kind of hoping I would get to at least have like one battle with them throughout this game, and so that was kind of a shame that they didn't get to have too much more screen time than that. But so next up, okay, the Pirates of the Caribbean level. Okay, so I am in the minority of people who was really hoping that we would get another Pirates level. I know, and I completely understand why people did not enjoy the Pirates level from 2. It's not very fun. It's kind of gross looking. It's kind of a slog. I totally get that. However, and dear God Almighty, just the the growth and massive difference in quality level of how 3 looks from head to toe compared to any of the previous games that had the PS2 style look to them, even on other consoles and everything, with like the way the models were and all that. Inherently, it was like they captured the realism of all of the characters like just so much better this time around. It all worked. It was all believable. And the point that I think Nomura made in an interview about how it made more sense to go with the plot of Pirates 3 as opposed to Pirates 2, just kind of skipping over that part, I think that was fine. And the ship battles were very cool. I actually didn't get to do too much of them because it just happened to be as we were trading off, Amy ended up doing it for the majority of the time. But a really cool mechanic, both the pirate ship stuff. And the flying battle and the swimming battles and everything, like just lots of really cool new mechanics tossed in there. For a second, I was about to be really angry at the game with the fucking collecting the crabs section, but then I changed my tune when I realized, there are more than 300, so we can just collect as many as we want, and then we'll just go back and move on to the next section or whatever. Because like the little section of Port Royal that we got to go to was fine and dandy and everything, but yeah, just collecting the crabs and worrying like, oh god, am I missing one? Like, oh Jesus, yeah, that was a little frustrating, but thankfully it didn't end up being as bad as I thought. Particularly, and this is the core reason why I wanted to see a Pirates level again, is because I wanted to fight against the Kraken and I wanted to fight against Davy Jones. Um, so when the Kraken battle started, when you're in the ship, to be honest, I was a little disappointed because it was, it was a perfectly okay boss with like the kind of spiraling around the fountain and the tentacles popping up and having to shoot down the Flying Dutchman and everything. But I was like, this is okay, and it was challenging. We had to try it I think like 3 or 4 times before we beat it. And but the real kicker was the fight on the ship with Davy Jones and the Kraken at the same time. That shit was awesome. That was one of my favorite moments in the whole game. It was pretty much exactly what I wanted as far as a cool Pirates of the Caribbean Kingdom Hearts boss battle. And having Jack on board, the Captain Jack voice match is way better in this game. No offense to James Arnold Taylor, he's an amazing voice actor who I love and respect. But yeah, definitely I liked the match a little bit closer on this for Johnny Depp. Yeah, so it was fun to go through. Pirates was great. And then last but not least, Big Hero 6, which once again I liked that there seemed to be, I guess, kind of like a half living through the movie and then half something after or between movies with the way that the execution of the Disney World specifically went. The Big Hero 6 stage taking place after the original movie. It was interesting because for one thing, I guess I will say I'm a little disappointed that they decided to reveal straight up that the twist was going to be that there was going to be a dark Baymax, like as in like the first Baymax, like rescued from the dimension that he got shoved into or whatever at the end of the movie. I figured that was going to be like the core recurring enemy of the whole thing, but then it turned out that it's just like, oh, you fight him at the very end, and it's like, oh, well then why did you reveal that? That would have been a cool thing to just see happen, especially if you knew the movie really well. So that was kind of a shame that they did that, I guess. It was also a little probably more than any other, probably more than any other of the organization, the true organization members that they decided to use. I think it's another version of the dark replica Riku from Chain of Memories. Because at first I thought it might have been Data Riku, and then I thought, oh, is it actually Riku from the time that he was evil for 2 seconds in the first game? But then the implication seems to be that it's the replica Riku from Chain of Memories before he decides to become a decent person. But I don't know. But either way, it was not a great idea to... I mean, like, of all things you could have included, it was like, why him? So that was a little agitating to see that mixed in there, I guess, but it's whatever. So the level, this was awesome. I'm okay with Big Hero 6, not one of my absolute favorite Disney movies, but it was definitely cool to see. Aesthetically, the city stage was just badass to be around, nice and open. Little difficult to tell, where to go or whatever, which is why I'm glad that they added the target like waypoint things. For seeing where you're supposed to go, basically having it be like a few days where you're part of the hero team and everything. And I was surprised to see that Baymax is the only party member that you get. For some reason, I thought the hero would be the other one. Didn't mind; it was fine. The Dark Baymax fight was not super great, to be honest. It was not just it was okay, but it wasn't one of the better ones, I would say. But I did like the usage they had of the other Big Hero 6 team members kind of sprinkled throughout, and you have to help them and seeing them learn from you as well. I don't expect. I know that they're still planning on doing a sequel to this movie at some point. I don't know when, but I'm not expecting anything of significance from this to pour into any other official Big Hero 6 stuff, whether it's on the TV show or the eventual sequel to the movie. Obviously, the ending bit is that there ends up being the two Baymaxes reunited together, but I don't know if they're actually going to acknowledge anything about that in any other Big Hero 6 stuff. But if they do, that would be very cool. I would give them a lot of credit for that if possible, but nonetheless. All right, and then, of course, we move into the rest of the game, which is all of the big, crazy plot shit. Going back to the Dark Realm and finally doing the anti-Aqua fight was a great moment. We kind of went halvesies on it. I think I did the Riku section, then Amy did the Sora section. But one of my new favorite remixes was that really sad, like, chorusy remix of Aqua's theme for when you're battling against her. It was a tough fight too. We managed to beat it on our first try, but it was a tough fight. And saving her and going back to Destiny Islands and everything, very nice, heartfelt scene. And then we just cut right to the chase. Then we go right to Castle Oblivion. I figured out pretty quickly that that's where they were, and I knew that she was going to convert it back into the Land of Departure. So I feel like it was because of all the stuff that I saw in a lot of the later trailers that they released, and I was able to kind of piece a lot of things back together. I remember, I think I saw actually, you know what? No, I do remember, unfortunately, when the game broke Street Date in Japan, I do remember seeing very briefly on my YouTube timeline somebody uploading the, I think it was actually the video that Ben and I were talking about a little while ago. That was the Kingdom Hearts 3 leak, forgive me, in parentheses or whatever. I believe it was the scene where Aqua and Sora and the gang go to the Land of Departure, and then they fight against Vanitas. So because I had caught that for a second, I think I just kind of put two and two together on how it was going to go. And not that it was that difficult to figure out anyway, but it was a little annoying that, like, well, that's in there. But I was happy to fight against Vanitas. I felt I had a score to settle with him after how difficult all the Birth by Sleep bosses were. So that was fun to do that. And then when we finally reunited and had our surprising team of Keyblade wielders, I think that actually I didn't quite guess that this was what the team was going to be when they go to confront the villains. But having Sora, Riku, Kairi, Mickey, Aqua, Ventus, and Axel was kind of cool. A little bit unexpected and a little bit off the beaten path. Like, well, I guess, you know what? Technically, the only difference was that Axel was there in place of Terra, but I should have realized that because obviously he was learning how to wield a Keyblade and everything. And by the way, so much credit to how they chose to write Axel in this game in general, particularly between the scene where they're all in Jensen's tower and, like, catching up on everything, and also later when he fights against Isa and Xemnas as well, all the things that he has to say, where Axel is just the mouthpiece of the audience on this whole game, and it's kind of hilarious, and I love it because it's completely fucking self-aware of everything. And it's genuinely funny the way that like it's all delivered and all that. So I liked that they kind of had him as this sort of like, man, this is so confusing, and oh man, we had to catch a couple people up on a few plot points or something, whatever the hell he says is pretty great. And we get our little moment of peace on Destiny Islands, and we were I remember we were kind of surprised when we were seeing that they were in fact bringing back up specifically the Sora and Kairi pairing. When me and Ash Paulson and Derek Bittner from Game Explain a couple years ago now did our discussion video about what we're expecting for 3, I made my counterpoint about how, like, well, maybe they kind of regret having that pairing set up or whatever. Maybe they want the relationships between all the characters to be a little bit more ambiguous now. But the fact that they included the, Kairi looking at the wall with the drawings of, them feeding each other the Paopu fruits and everything, it seemed to be, the fact that they included that, it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess they're going somewhere with that then after all, which is fine. That if that's the way that they wanted to go, that's fine. It's interesting because I did like the fact that Sora says in one of the levels, I forget if it was Frozen or Tangled or something, that he's I may have a lot more to learn about love, and because he seems to still act very, like, oblivious around Kairi, and I know that the joke was always like, oh man, he has no reaction, and like the VG Cats comic we always come back to, he has like little to no reaction with Kairi, and then when he sees Riku he's like, oh my God, I looked everywhere for you. And everybody's like, oh, well, clearly Riku's the love interest kind of thing, you know. But it's interesting to see that they still intentionally seem to execute Sora as being kind of like not like blissfully ignorant, but like just very like, about it. I don't know. It's interesting, I guess. But and Kyrie is kind of the assertive one, where she's like, "We're sharing these Paopu fruits. I want to be a part of your life, no matter what happens," kind of thing. It's like, "Oh, wow, look at you. You're serious." And kind of in this very, I do love moments like this where like the characters know like we're about to go to something that could literally end all of our lives. Like this is the calm before the storm kind of thing. I love when stories have time to do shit like that. I really, really love that. So I'm glad that they managed to go that route with they had the little moment on Destiny Islands and everything. And then we're off to the races on the Keyblade Graveyard. It was we got up to the moment where this is the thing that I was kind of annoyed that I saw in the trailer and regretted watching it for. But you know, Sora's like breakdown upon losing all of his friends and everybody getting captured and everything. I felt it wasn't executed like quite as well as it could have. I did like what came after the next part. I liked a lot, but yeah, the actual like faltering and everything and all that. I don't know. It seemed a little bit like all over the place, I guess, but I did like the interesting use of the final worlds with I guess this kind of almost passing into the afterlife sort of thing that happened. You know, although actually I will say I am genuinely kind of pissed off that like they had the gall to include a few shots of the final world in some of the recent, some of the later trailers that they did. It's like, of all things, like why would you show that? Like I know it's for just a moment, but like come on, like have some fucking things be an actual surprise, because they showed literally every single location that you go to in every trailer. Like there were there were very few surprises as a result of that, which is kind of a shame. I wasn't super happy about that, but I did like that level. I liked having Chirithi in there. I'm curious as to who the little star ghost girl that was talking to Sora was supposed to be. I think it might be Skuld from the cell phone game, but I don't know 100% for certain. I don't know if also the characters in general during all those parts, if that's who all of them were supposed to be, were characters from the cell phone game. I'm not entirely sure about that. It was interesting. I think that all those little unvoiced passages were written very well. They were very like poetic and cool. But yeah, you know, that was a nice little setup for future things to come. It was interesting to see all that, I guess, and who knows if maybe Sora will cross through there again. You know, we're considering how the ending turned out. Yeah, and then I guess the only other little disappointing thing was I was expecting to have to go back to each of the levels, but not like this. That Lich Heartless boss thing was super annoying to fight against, like 8 times in a fucking row, or 7 times, I guess. Yeah, that whole section of just like, all right, now we're gonna listen to Destati and go to these sleeping worlds of all the Disney levels and fight this Lich Heartless and rescue the characters or whatever. It's like, whatever. I did like the ending bit of it where Kyrie rescues Sora and pulls him out of the darkness and everything. And he has that moment of, again, flashing back to specifically the Disney stuff, where the implication is, oh, he's learning more about what love means. Okay, wow, they really seem to be kind of going in that direction with this. All right, sure. Yeah, so then we come back to the Keyblade Graveyard. The stuff with Ephemer, first of all, was very happy that Michael Johnston had his one whole glorious line of dialogue in there. That was a fun little cameo for him. And you know what? Even though I am not really following the events of Key and Union Cross and the cell phone game in general, you know, I don't have too much investment into that stuff. I did actually really appreciate the whole like summoning the Keyblades of the Warriors of the Past sequence for fighting against that big wave of darkness. I did very much like that, and having like all of the triangle commands be like the like usernames. I actually do wonder if like all of those might be from like a bank of what all of the different like accounts are from like the leaderboards or something. If like those are actually real people that played the game or something, that were like they took all the screen names and just tossed it in there. I don't know for certain, but it was cute. It was very cute. It was a nice little like, if you get it, you get it, and I got it, and I liked it, and I appreciated what they were doing with that. So. And then I guess that leads into the final stretch and everything, the last battle. In summation, it was everything I ever could have asked for. I was very curious as to how the clash between darkness and light thing was going to go, and I can't think of how they could have executed the whole thing better. Excuse me. It's interesting because shout out to Joe Apocalypse, creator of so this is basically Kingdom Hearts. He was making a bunch of points on Twitter that I completely kind of agree with, in terms of like how a lot of the arcs of the characters ultimately, both the heroes and the villains, were ultimately kind of shallow in the end and didn't really amount to too much. And I totally get that, and I can't really argue against that too hard. But all of the actual boss battles you have were fun. I'm very happy that you basically got to fight against every single individual member of the organization. The idea of having them all be fought against in groups, I thought was actually a really cool idea. Oh, by the way, I was happy that Yensid got a little moment of being badass as well, and gave a good reason for Goofy and Donald to take a break and go at them while you fight alongside other characters. So if I'm remembering correctly, Amy fought against Marluxia, Luxord, and Larxene, and because Chain of Memories was actually the first Kingdom Hearts game that she ever played, so I felt that it was deserving for her to be able to fight against Marluxia and Larxene. And Luxord was fun too. It was becoming kind of a tropey, jokey sort of thing by the end, where the characters were all like, you beat one of them, and then like, they fall down, and they're like, oh God, you defeated me, and now here's my little moment where I, either have my final words, because this is the last time you'll see me probably at all, and then or some tease for some future thing or whatever. Like, obviously we'll see Marluxia and Larxene, and I'm sure at this point Luxord and Demyx, I have a feeling their human equivalents are going to show up in the cell phone game, because of that one scene where Xemnas is talking about their ancient involvement with being Keyblade wielders of some kind. I think that might be the case. So we'll see what happens with that, but I know that they'll all be back. And then I fought against Dark Riku and Xigbar. With Dark Riku, they made sense of it, and it was fine. I was happy to see the good guy version of Replica Riku in there have a little final moment of being part of everything, and making sure that the hollow replica body was left behind to be given specifically to Naminé so that she could come back and be part of everything, which was nice. That was a good little moment. Xigbar, it was pretty dark the way that he was, going about what his thing was, but I guess now I see he was trying to make it look like as if he was dying. And I'll just say that, because I don't know if I'm going to talk too much about the ending stuff. That might be a separate discussion entirely. But I am very happy that he in particular is getting to stick around in the way that he is. So that's nice. And then we moved on to the next set. And Amy took the Birth by Sleep duo of characters. And wow. Well, okay, so first of all, the Vanitas thing, it was cool just to get to see him to do, one more little quick thing. Even though, he's like Vanitas represents one of those really stereotypically, like, lame ideas of, like, it's an evil Sora, ooh, and yes, we know that there's a logical reason as to why he looks like that, but it's very contrived and silly and what the fuck ever. But it was cool to fight him again. The fact that he had, like, basically 3 different encounters in this was certainly telling of something. It was kind of cool to see that. But he took care of him, had him go off. I guess I don't know what the full kind of thing behind his whole, like, it was my choice to be evil thing was, but he faded away. And then we had Terra Xehanort. So I guess to go back a little bit, actually, I wasn't expecting Terra Xehanort to be one of the incarnations that was used. I'm not entirely sure how he managed to get back necessarily, because I don't know if that was due to the replicas or the time travel stuff or whatever. I'm not sure exactly how like Terra Xehanort and Master Xehanort both could be there and came to be in the first place. I didn't quite get that, to be honest, but I guess he was one of the ones that I thought of that might have ultimately ended up being part of it. So it was cool, and seeing the Terra armor show back up to do all the badass moves and everything, much like he did in the secret boss fight that you can have with him in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. That was a great moment, going back earlier before the big gauntlet that you have against everybody. But yeah, and then fighting against him, and I gotta say, so here's a big thing about this section, just this particular section right here. So probably one of the coolest moments in the entire thing was, and I remember losing my goddamn mind when, and I don't know if this was planned for a long time or if it was oh wait, we can do this and it perfectly works. But either way, it was one of the best twists ever, is having the Guardian Heartless be Terra in some kind of sealed away form that he was unable to fight back as, and he was controlled and everything, while Xehanort was fully making use of his body, and then ripping off that the X tape in on his mouth, and as soon as he was like, one day I will set this right, I was losing my fucking mind. Like, just such a great scene, so well executed, so cool. Even if you don't know or care about the Birth by Sleep trio, that's totally fine. But you got to admit, it was a fucking cool scene. I, on the other hand, love this trio of characters very much, and I got really emotional and I fucking cried when the three of them finally got reunited again. More than any other reunion and any other moment in the whole game, that scene of Terra, Aqua, and Ventus finally getting back together and hugging it out, I fucking cried. It was ridiculous, and we had to pause. And I'm gonna go wash my face out real quick. So there's that. So moving on to the not as happy part. We get Axel and Kairi as party members for a whole glorious 5 goddamn seconds. And then, somehow, even though... God, okay, so even though it still seemed to be established that Roxas and Shion's hearts were still within Sora, Ventus obviously had been put back where he needed to be, but the fact that Shion and Roxas I thought still were, but somehow Shion is given a replica body and is taken out of Sora and becomes one of the 13 members, even though she doesn't consider herself a villain anymore. That was weird, and I didn't really like that was kind of the route that they went with her for. That was a little silly to me. Aiza made sense, and Aiza was fun to fight against. He was a tough one. He was a tough one in 2 as well, so it was cool to fight against him again. But and then Roxas showing up, that's great, that's cool, and he gets his body and etc., and that was great. And then Kairi gets fucking kidnapped, and I got angry because I'm like, oh cool, I finally get to fight alongside her as a party member for all of 5 seconds. And Axel gets injured, and then Shion and Roxas are my 2 party members, and that's great and everything, but cool. Kairi's one moment to do something of action, she gets kidnapped by fucking Xemnas and just taken away. It's like, oh, cool, that's so great, thanks for that, okay. And then we fight Saïx, and that might have been, unfortunately, a factor as to why it was kind of dampening. It was a great moment seeing the ice cream trio of Axel, Roxas, and Shion get together. It was wonderful. It was really nice to see it, but I think that also because of the stuff that led up to it, and my mood was dampened a little bit by that. I was like not as emotionally, losing it, I guess, compared to the Birth by Sleep trio being reunited. However, my good graces were won back shortly after when we reunite with Riku and Mickey, and then we have the next phase, getting to fight against Ansem, Xemnas, and young Xehanort all at the same time. I can't entirely say for certain if this was my favorite boss battle in the whole game. It was definitely up there as one of them. It may have, no, you know what? It definitely had my favorite track in the game. My favorite like boss battle theme of the whole game was the arrangement of the final boss themes against Ansem, Xemnas, and young Xehanort from their respective games as well. I loved that. Me and Heather, as kind of a little thing that she mentioned to me a couple days ago, Heather and I both tried really hard to make young Master Xehanort the last one that we fought against. But unfortunately, the game just kind of forced it to go the way that it did. But it was nice to see like their final words. I mean, I have a feeling that maybe we'll see young Master Xehanort come back again in some way, shape, or form in the future. Even though what happened to them at this point. But I think that just like via flashbacks and whatever else, I think that they'll probably make appearances in the future again. But it was cool to see like the final moments of like those three characters, like those three individual versions of this particular character was nice. And then we get to Xehanort, and then he fucking kills Kairi, and then Kairi doesn't get to do fucking anything for the entire rest of the game. I was really disappointed in that. I was really, really angry about the fact that there was all this build-up and all this stuff they did, and they ultimately wrote little to nothing with this goddamn character. That is the thing that I am more than anything else with this entire game, I am disappointed about. I'm gonna get to this now because I don't want to have the final note that I talk about with this be a downer, like a negative thing, because I love this game. I loved this game. I had a great time with it. I'm really fucking annoyed and disappointed with what they did with Kairi though. Say what you will about whether like her, like personality wise she's interesting or whatever, but I wanted to see them do something interesting with her so that Sora, Kairi, and Riku could all get cool moments. And ultimately, all they did was just continue to have her be the, like, I'm the girl character. Like, she's around, she has some moments of being, like, fun and cute and nice, and, like, interactions with other characters that are okay, and that's great and everything. But the fact that she was robbed of getting to have even, like, more than 2 seconds of a moment of action and being badass in like the gameplay side of things sucked. And then she gets kidnapped, and then she becomes a sacrificial pawn and doesn't actually get to be part of the final battle at all, and that pisses me off. It really, really, really super fucking pisses me off. And even skipping ahead a little bit to even she doesn't even get a happy ending. Get your mind out of the gutter. Like she doesn't get to be with him, and I'll get to that in a minute. But okay, positive note. The final Xehanort battle was, for the most part, really, really fucking cool. I think that the only thing I would have maybe, and who knows, maybe this was even something that was planned, much like how there was meant to be like a giant form of Xemnas in the final battle with him. I think it would have been cool if there was some kind of like giant monster form or something, like maybe he like literally takes control of the city, maybe like another like platforming section or something where like he's like commanding the city to like fight against you or something like that. That would have been maybe nice, but I did love the constant changing and shifting around and different things like that with both like phases of the Xehanort fight when he's armored. That design is so cool. And then the final fight where he fights you with the Keyblade the key blade, and and all the little location changes in the middle of those fights and everything. They were all very cool. I was very happy with that, and the fact that you get to have Donald and Goofy with you for the absolute last part of that and everything. As far as the the end of Xehanort's arc and everything, I guess I buy his whole thing being that he felt some sense of responsibility of bringing order to everything. You know, I feel that whole thing could have been executed a little bit better. I was happy to see Elder Master Ericus. Always a pleasure to hear Mark Hamill. I don't want to spend too much time either on Xehanort's new actor. I'll just say I'm very disappointed in the creative choice that they went with casting wise for him. I think it was kind of a silly move to go with. I don't know who was ultimately responsible for it. If it was multiple people coming together on what they went with for the English version of the game. In the Japanese version, it's Akio Otsuka who plays Terra Xehanort and Ansem, Seeker of Darkness, doing an imitation of his now deceased father, Chikao Otsuka, which I'm sure was excellent. I'm not happy with the decision they made on the actor and the performance, and not even just the accent or the lack of sounding consistent to Leonard Nimoy's character, but just the performance was taking me out of every scene. With the exception of when he's like kind of in the process of dying at the very, very, very end, that he did okay at, but everything else, I just couldn't take him seriously. It was really a bummer for like the lead villain. Like, sorry if anybody involved with that part like actually hears this. Like, I'm sorry if this is insulting, but like it was a bummer. I know it's not nice to say that. It's nothing personal. I'm sure. I don't know Rutger Hauer's work. I'm sure he is an outstanding on-camera actor, but just for this particular thing, I don't know what they were thinking for this casting decision. It was a shame. The actual content of that with Ericus as Ghost and them kind of fading off and everything, it was fine. I felt kind of like it was strange that like Kingdom Hearts itself was just kind of like, yeah, and here it is, and then I guess that Sora just like somehow teleports them back to Scala Ad Caelum, or Scala Ad Caelum, yeah, the Stairway to Heaven world, which was very cool. It was fine. It was the some of the execution of the story points of it was kind of like, all right, sure, yeah, whatever, not a little all over the place, I guess, but sure, whatever. They saved the world. The end. The actual battle was excellent. And then, of course, we get the little couple ending credit sequences with playing the orchestral version of Simple and Clean. And then, of course, we hear Don't Think Twice. Excuse me. Seeing all the characters get to have their moments of, reuniting with everybody and seeing, Axel and Isa and Shion get their own outfits. Shion is rocking that goth look, by the way. It's so cute with a great little dress and everything. And Axel and Cyrix are totally gay, by the way. So it was great to see all that Naminé come back and everybody kind of all, united back to where they're supposed to be and everything, and seeing all that was cool. And then as the song starts playing and we see all of the gang hanging out, having a little vacation on Destiny Island, and quite frankly, the fact that it didn't happen on the little Paupu fruit scene, as we look over at Sora and Kairi are on the bench and on the tree hanging out, and at that point, we were expecting a kiss. And as soon as he starts fading away, I lost it. I still, even as I'm talking about this game in general, as it's been a few days now since we beat the game, I feel like someone died. I feel like someone in general, like in life, fucking died. And it's so weird how it's like actually affecting me in this profound way. But yeah, I'm very sad. I'm really, I'm happy that literally every single other fucking character of significance, including a lot of the villains, got some kind of happiness delivered to them in the end, except for fucking Kyrie. I mean, for all I know, I'm sure Sora, waking up in Shibuya or whatever the fuck is going on with the super secret ending, I guess. But he's out there. He'll come back. With whatever they plan on doing next. Again, that'll be a separate discussion. I think what I may do is I may get Ben, and we'll talk about our thoughts on like the ending and what's next, and like our general thoughts on 3 overall. But I'm sad. I'm sad about it. But despite that, Kingdom Hearts 3 is fucking excellent. It is hands down the best game in the franchise, bar none. It is incomparable. I know some people are understandably a little disappointed at how short it was. Amy and I spent about 30 hours in total doing everything, and that's not even counting all the extra content and like the side quests and everything and some of the secret bosses or whatever. And we decided not to bother with the lucky emblems because we were just craving finding out what the secret ending was. And of course we saw the epilogue with the Lost Masters and everything. I'll save that for another discussion. But overall, it was the best game in the franchise. That is something we absolutely agreed on. And it was 100% worth the wait. It is still, at the end of the day, a Kingdom Hearts game with its weird, cringe-ass, complicated-ass storylines and everything negative that comes with it being a Kingdom Hearts game. But as far as the positives of it being a Kingdom Hearts game, it was incredible. I had so much fun blasting through it over the last week. It was such a fucking crazy ride. And, as it's been in the past, as it will be yet again right here, all that's left to do is to wait for whatever is going to be next, whether it's 4 or something else entirely, or something in between, what may eventually be 4, I don't know. But, Nomura is moving next onto the Final Fantasy VII Remake. We will see what happens in the future with this franchise, I guess. But that is as much as I could possibly remember about everything that we played through the last few days. And after taking a break, and I've just been very busy, and I finally had time tonight to sit down and do this. But I love this game. I love these characters. I love this stupid ass, complicated ass story. I may continue to follow whatever's going on in the cell phone game as they continue to update that, and just to get my fix of content with whatever the fuck's going on with it. But it's something else. Kingdom Hearts 3, it's finally here. It was worth the wait. It was a great ride. This is one that I may actually play again in the future. I've never actually replayed through all of 1 and 2. I think I've actually never replayed through any of the ones that I've played through all the way. But 3, I may revisit someday because I really did enjoy it a lot. So with that said, that concludes my sort of travelogue, although, the last hour of it has been, the next couple days because we literally, just to clarify, on Saturday the 2nd, we played through all of the rest of the Disney Worlds, and then we quit, and then and Sunday the 3rd, including between cooking food and watching the Super Bowl, we beat the entire rest of the game that day. Because I wasn't expecting to get through it this quickly. But the length of the game as a whole surprised me. But we had a really good time. It was an excellent, excellent work of art. And and now we play the waiting game yet again. But in the comments below, folks, and this is Spoiler Town, so, don't be gentle, I guess. Let me know your thoughts about the whole game, favorite moments, favorite levels, favorite battles, favorite anything, cool character moments, whatever you want. Let me know your thoughts. That's going to do it for me. I am tired. I need to go to bed. But thanks for listening, and I'll catch you all in the next one. I got a couple other things planned for the following few weeks within the month. I will try to see, no guarantees, but probably what I'll do is I'll ask if Ben wants to get together and do kind of like a post-mortem Kingdom Hearts 3 Kirblog discussion or something, and we'll
see how that goes. But yeah, thanks for listening to all this. I hope this was enjoyable. I hope you all, if those of you who played the game, enjoyed it. And may your hearts be your guiding key.